The clock struck 12, and in that single moment when the world exhaled between 1 year and the next, Maya felt his lips on hers for the first and last time. When she opened her eyes, he was gone, not just from the rooftop where they stood beneath a sky full of fireworks, but from her life, from the city, from existence itself. It would be 3 years before she understood why that kiss had tasted like goodbye, and by then the truth would shatter everything. She thought she knew about love, sacrifice, and the choices we make when time is running out. Maya had never believed in fairy tales, but that New Year's Eve had felt like magic. She had been 25, working double shifts at a coffee shop by day and attending night classes for her nursing degree, barely keeping her head above water after her mother's medical bills had drained everything they had. The rooftop party wasn't even supposed to be her scene. Her best friend Priya had dragged her there, insisting she needed one night to forget about everything falling apart. And then she saw him, Arjun. He was standing alone by the railing, looking out at the city lights with an expression that mirrored her own exhaustion, her own quiet desperation. Their eyes met across the crowded rooftop, and something fundamental shifted in the universe. If you believe in second chances, in the kind of love that transcends time and circumstance, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more stories of hope and healing to people who need them most. They had talked for hours that night, discovering they were both carrying weights too heavy for their young shoulders. Arjun told her about his younger sister who needed a kidney transplant, about the experimental treatment overseas that insurance wouldn't cover, about the impossible choice between his own dreams and his family's survival. Maya shared her own struggles, the mountain of debt, the nights she cried herself to sleep wondering if she would ever see the light at the end of the tunnel. But when they were together, none of it seemed to matter. For those few hours, they were just two souls who had found each other in the chaos, two people who understood that sometimes surviving is the bravest thing you can do. As midnight approached, he had taken her hand and led her to the edge of the rooftop. The city sprawled beneath them, a million lights representing a million stories, a million hearts beating in the darkness. Arjun looked at her with eyes that held entire universes of unspoken words, and when the countdown began, Maya felt her heart racing in a way that had nothing to do with the champagne or the celebration. 10, 9, 8. She could feel the electricity between them, the pull of something bigger than both of them. 7, 6, 5. His hand tightened around hers, and she saw something flash across his face, something that looked like pain and love and regret all tangled together. 4, 3, 2. He leaned in, and she closed her eyes, surrendering to the moment. 1. The kiss was soft and desperate and eternal, tasting of salt and promises and things that could never be. And then the fireworks exploded across the sky, painting everything in brilliant colors. And when Maya opened her eyes, he was gone. She searched everywhere. She asked everyone at the party, but no one seemed to remember him. Clearly, she checked with Priya, who swore she had never seen Maya talking to anyone all night. It was as if Arjun had been a ghost, a dream, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and too much grief. But Maya knew he was real. She could still feel his hand in hers, still taste his kiss, still hear his voice telling her that everything would be okay. She tried to find him online, searched every social media platform, every database she could. Access nothing. He had vanished completely, leaving behind only questions and a business card she found in her coat pocket the next morning with a single word written on the back: wait. The months that followed were the darkest of Maya's life. Her mother's condition deteriorated, and Maya threw herself into her studies and work with a ferocity that frightened her friends. She stopped going out, stopped believing in magic, stopped hoping for anything beyond surviving the next day. But she kept that business card in her wallet, and sometimes, in her weakest moments, she would take it out and trace the word with her finger. Wait for what? For whom? For how long? 3 years passed. Maya finished her nursing degree and got a job at the city's largest hospital. Her mother's health stabilized, though they would be paying off the medical debt for years to come. Life moved forward the way it always does, indifferent to heartbreak and unanswered questions. Maya learned to smile again, learned to live again, though some part of her remained frozen on that rooftop at midnight, waiting for answers that never came. And then one ordinary Tuesday afternoon, She was assigned to the transplant ward. A new patient had just come out of surgery, a successful kidney transplant after years of waiting, the chart said. His name was Arjun Mehta. Maya's hands trembled as she pushed open the door to his room, her heart hammering against her ribs, and there he was, older, thinner, with shadows under his eyes that spoke of suffering she couldn't imagine, but unmistakably him, the man who had kissed her at midnight and disappeared, was asleep. So Maya stood there, frozen, as 3 years of questions crashed over her like a tidal wave. And then she saw the medical records, the dates, the timeline that explained everything. That New Year's Eve, Arjun hadn't just been worried about his sister. He had been sick too, the early stages of the same genetic condition that had destroyed his sister's kidneys. He had known he was running out of time. The experimental treatment. Overseas, he had sold everything, given up his entire life in the city, moved to another country to fight for survival while his sister was on the transplant list. Here he had kissed Maya at midnight, knowing he might never see her again, knowing he might not survive, and he had left her that card with one word because he couldn't promise her anything more than hope. Maya was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face as she read the notes. From his doctors, he had spent 3 years fighting, enduring treatments that had nearly killed him, donating his own kidney to his sister before leaving the country, and then fighting to survive long enough to receive his own transplant. And he had come back, not to the same hospital where his sister had been treated, but to this one, to Maya's hospital, to the one place where fate might bring them together again. When Arjun finally woke up and saw her standing there in her nurse's scrubs, his eyes filled with tears, he reached out a trembling hand, and Maya took it, feeling the same electricity she had felt 3 years ago. And this time, she understood what that kiss had meant. It wasn't goodbye. It was a promise that even when everything seemed impossible, even when survival itself was uncertain, love could endure. He had carried her with him through every painful treatment, every moment of despair, every time he wanted to give up, and she had waited, not even knowing she was waiting, for this moment. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the kind of love that survives impossible odds, please leave a like on this video and share it with someone who needs a reminder that miracles can happen. Your engagement helps this story reach more people who need hope right now. Arjun's voice was hoarse when he finally spoke, barely more than a whisper. He told her everything, the diagnosis that came the night before, that party, the impossible choice between telling her the truth and protecting her from pain she didn't deserve, the way he had spent 3 years fighting to survive so he could find his way back to her. He told her that every time he thought he couldn't endure another day, he remembered her smile on that rooftop, remembered the way she had understood his struggles without judgment, remembered that kiss at midnight that had given him a reason to fight for tomorrow. Before we reach the end, please take a moment to comment below and tell us, do you believe some people are meant to find each other no matter what? Share your thoughts with our community. Maya stayed by his side through his recovery, watching him grow stronger. Every day they talked for hours like they had on that rooftop, but now there were no secrets between them, no unspoken goodbyes. 6 months later, when Arjun was fully recovered and had started rebuilding his life, he took Maya back to that same rooftop. It was New Year's Eve again, and as midnight approached, he pulled out a small box and asked her the question she had been waiting 3 years to hear. And when the clock struck 12, and the fireworks painted the sky in brilliant colors, he kissed her again. But this time, when she opened her eyes, he was still there, still holding her, still promising forever. Because some love stories don't end with a kiss at midnight. They begin there, tested by time and distance and impossible odds, emerging stronger on the other side. Maya had waited 3 years for answers, and she had found something even more precious. Proof that when love is real, when it's worth fighting for, not even time itself can make it disappear.